Kindness is more than a kind gesture, is a virtue that carries the DNA of God himself. It is a fruit of the Spirit, living evidence that one walks with him. The Bible not only calls us to love, but to be light in the midst of darkness, to reach out to those in need, to be a reflection of divine compassion. However, this kindness is not a social performance, nor an attempt to please the world. It is sacred, intentional, and deeply spiritual. To be kind is to carry the heart of God, but it is also to understand that this kindness has purpose, direction, and limits, for even God's love, though infinite, is guided by wisdom and justice. Kindness without discernment can become a trap. Many believe that being Christian means saying yes to everything and everyone, but that's not the model Jesus left us. The Bible teaches us to love, yes, but it also warns us to be wise, vigilant, and prudent. Not every request for help comes from a sincere heart, not every outstretched hand carries good intentions. And when kindness is offered without wisdom, it can be exploited, manipulated, and used as a tool by those uncommitted to the truth. Discernment is the spiritual filter that protects the purity of our compassion. It allows us to love without being deceived, to help without being used, and to serve without losing our purpose. Because the kindness that comes from God is not blinded. Say Jesus is the perfect model of love with wisdom. He healed the sick, welcomed the rejected, and forgave sinners, but he was never naive. He saw beyond words, beyond gestures, beyond the crowds who followed him only for what they could receive. Jesus discerned hearts. He knew who sought him for truth and who sought him out of convenience. He did not surrender to everyone. He did not trust blindly, and he did not allow the expectations of others to dictate his mission. His kindness was full of grace, but also firm. His compassion was deep, but never without discernment. He shows us that it is possible to love intensely without losing one's clarity, to help without being manipulated, and to serve without being enslaved by human demands. Jesus' kindness was powerful because it was guided by the Spirit, and it is this pattern we are called to follow. Ease with the eyes of the Spirit. The idea that being a Christian means always being available, always saying yes, always sacrificing yourself for others, is a dangerous distortion of true biblical kindness. Many have been taught that withholding help is unloving, that setting boundaries is selfish, and that refusing a request is sinful. But this is not what God teaches. The kindness that pleases God is not blind submission, it is wisdom in action. Being too nice may seem noble, but in practice, it can be destructive. It can drain your energy, steal your peace, and distance you from God's purpose for your life. True kindness isn't about pleasing everyone, it's about obeying God. And sometimes, obeying means saying no, walking away, and protecting what He has entrusted to you. Because when kindness becomes an obligation imposed by others, it ceases to be a virtue and becomes a prison. There's a fine line between being kind and being you-stand. Many don't realize when it's crossed. Loving people doesn't mean allowing them to abuse your generosity. True kindness isn't the absence of limits, but the presence of wisdom. When you give without criteria, without pause, without discernment, you become an easy target for emotional manipulation, financial exploitation, and spiritual exhaustion. God never called us to be martyrs for the approval of others. He called us to love with purpose, help with direction, and serve with discernment. Being kind isn't about being available for everything. It's about knowing when your help is healing and when it's just fueling irresponsibility. Because there's a difference between being a light and being extinguished by the darkness of others. When the enemy wants to destroy someone, he rarely appears with obvious threats. He sends people who approach with smiles, sweet words, and apparent friendship, but whose goal is to feed on your generosity, your energy, your faith. They don't come with swords, they come with requests. They don't attack with shouts, but with disguised needs. And if you're not careful, your kindness will be used as a gateway to emotional, spiritual, and even financial exhaustion. This is why discernment is vital. You were called to love, but not to be blind. You were called to help, but not to be exploited. The enemy knows that a kind heart is a powerful force. That's why he tries to corrupt it through exhaustion and manipulation. And when you don't set boundaries, you end up carrying burdens that weren't placed by God, but by people who aren't committed to the truth. Jesus taught us that being wise is as essential